I know you've thought about feminism a lot more than me. So here's something I've been thinking about lately, and I'd love you to kind of, I don't know, clarify it or offer something. And this has been something of a kind of intellectual conversion for me. I spoke to a Sheila called Carrie Gress, who wrote a book called The End of, what's it called? The End of Woman, How Smashing the Patriarchy Has Destroyed Us. And I was thinking about this and I thought, okay, women are weaker. If they weren't, feminism wouldn't exist. It's almost like, but the atheist looks at the woman who is weaker and tries to make up for her deficiency by making her man-like. The Christian, I think, ought to see the woman, by weaker, that doesn't mean a deficiency. This vulnerability is part of her beauty and genius.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's actually not something that needs to be rectified. It's something that needs to be understood and nurtured and loved and protected.
Yeah, I mean,
something like that?
Yeah, and this is the problem. Yeah, I would agree. I'm trying to like parse that out in my...
Yeah, I didn't say it very clearly, but it's just been... Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. We get lied to. It's sort of like how men get lied to about how, porn is very masculine. That's kind of a lie I remember being told as a kid.
Yep.
And then a woman gets lied to, like that she's a slave if she serves her husband, but liberated if she serves her employer, we just get lied to.
You totally
and then
get lied
to break out of that lie, it's like you become a traitor to the typical way of thinking, common way of thinking.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is the problem with the bracketing of Ephesians 5 in the Mass. It's like, the apostles talked about this. This was in the Bible. It's patriarchy is bimodal. There's the clerical patriarchy and the household patriarchy, right? We're different. That's beautiful. We're equal in dignity. There's a stronger sex. There's a weaker sex, and we have uniquely different roles. This is where mutual submission falls flat, because mutual submission implies that we're the same, that the two parties are alike. We're alike in the sense that we're both God's creation, but we're not the same. And so anything with, I think this is Vodi Bakum said this, he's a Protestant pastor, anything with two heads is a monster. And I just read this in a book, The Case for Patriarchy by Tim Gordon, by the way. And I think it was we're going to be quoting Aquinas and actually seeing if this is Aquinas. This is the joke.
I'm not an expert on Aquinas.
No. And he said, he was talking about Sirach, the book of Sirach. And he was saying that the philosopher says that the woman's dominion is the death of a family like a tyrant of a commonwealth. I don't know what translation that is of Sirach, but it was quoting Sirach nevertheless. Yep. And so it's like, why are we treating each other like we're the same? I think this has been the greatest psyop that we failed. It's because like we can't even say that first wave feminism was good. The only innocuous piece of feminism that was like, maybe, this wasn't objectively an okay thing is the voting. But I heard even you wrestling with that recently. Were you not?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anyone should be voting, but...
Right.
No, I don't know. I mean, I could be open. I could be persuaded that a family should vote.
Right.
Not two people, and that the man, being the head of the family, should vote on behalf of the family.
So there you go. But for sure, and I think we agree on that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought it through. That seems reasonable to me.
It does seem reasonable to me as well. And so that was the only maybe relatively innocuous part, and one we could argue about that point. But everything else is just a lie. I mean, the Seneca Falls Confession's first wave feminism talking about cutting off the head of the family. Yeah.
No, it's wicked. It's wicked root and branch.
It's completely wicked. Yeah. And this is why we cannot speak about the red pill without talking about feminism.
That's right.
And this is why I don't want to bash the feminists that have been indoctrinated, because a lot of them, like, they come out of it in their 30s and 40s. That's heartbreaking to see.
Well, it's the same reason you have sympathy for red pill men.
That's exactly why.
Women ought to have sympathy for those who've been indoctrinated by feminism and haven't come out of it yet. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be corrected.
They should be corrected, and I think there's a place for the heavy-handed correction, and there's a place for the gentle correction.
Well, this is why we need women to do this. You said earlier that women listen to women.
Yes.
We need women to speak in a way that women will hear, because you can speak in a way that people will just think you're a jerk, and they won't listen to you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's called for. Sometimes people respond to that. Sure. Even women will respond to that well. But yeah, we do need more women, I think, to call out this stuff.
Yeah, and I think like the perfection of femininity, like what a woman is. I think I'm just exploring this sentence out loud. I said this during the filming of a documentary somewhat recently, was that exists in a woman's agency in saying yes to God through her husband and just being obedient and submissive. But let me also say the flip side too. And
go for it.
Maybe we shouldn't also have to always bring in the caveat, but I think it's important. part of the conversation. Will Nolan also said 2 weeks ago on a podcast, there's invisible lat syndrome patriarchy too.
Explain that to me.
So when a guy goes into the gym and he gets all puffed up, he walks around like he's got to walk sideways through doors and he's walking around posturing. Okay. There's that kind of patriarchy too, where it's like, I'm going to decide what my wife eats, everything that she wears, all of these things where it's just.
Do people actually say that?
There are people,
I'm sure there are. I mean, there's a lot of people on the internet saying crazy things.
100%. But I think in the Catholic world, the majority of the marriages are feminist. But there's going to be a percentage, or that there's these men that are tyrants that just take this to the absolute extreme because they're insecure and they don't actually know how to wield that authority or yield that authority properly, right? Where it was a really interesting discussion with all the guys. We were saying that some of the greatest kings, and this is something that I'm not equating myself to a king, but something I've done with my wife as well, is they would seek the counsel of their wives because they're pure of heart and they're prudent. And who else would have a more of a vested interest in the household? It's the wife. Some of these biggest decisions that I make, most decisions that I make, I know I have the final say, but I want to consult my wife. I want to see what she has to say. Maybe she'll sway me because it's a good idea, and maybe we disagree, but I make the decision anyways. But I still consult her. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with making a choice on something in the home. I know I could just slam the hammer down, but I think it's a good idea, and I love including her in the decision. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I think that's proper leadership and not just saying like, you're just made for these 3 duties around the home and that's all you're going to do. I'm not going to let you leave the house. I'm not going to let you do anything else. Like that's tyrannical. I think that's a smaller percentage of Catholic.
Yeah. I'm going back a little bit to what you said earlier, because it seems to me what you're seeing is, okay, there's this giant threat of feminism and people have tried to attack it in a nuanced way for so long that it loses in the stream of words what it is you're trying to say. So you want to say things directly. Mm-hmm. So I sense like there's a little kind of hesitation to nuance it, because maybe to nuance it, what?
Because I just think it's been nuanced to death, that I think we should be speaking in more plain language.
Yeah. But the fact is, there are women who are listening to this podcast right now who, when they hear wives be submissive to your husbands, they do have the hair on the back of their neck stand up because they do hear that as tyrannical. So I do think in order for them to hear what it is you're trying to say, I do think it is important that you say what you're not meaning, or you say what you don't mean.
Well, I think you have to. I think you have to paint the whole picture. As much as it's a smaller percentage, I truly believe of Catholic marriages, I think it's a smaller percentage. It's still a percentage, and I also condemn that. I don't live that out. There's been times where I've overcorrected and I'm like, that just actually just doesn't feel right. And I wouldn't want somebody to treat my daughters that way either. Yeah. But let's not make no mistake. On the flip side too, the submissiveness piece too is like, our woman says, well, if he's worthy of submission, I'll submit. Well, it's like, now he's not living according to God's standards. He's living according to yours. And so like the gas and brake pedal of feminism is toxic masculinity. That's the brake, or man up. That's the gas pedal.
Ooh, that's good.
And so now they've effectively controlled it all under this guise of like, you make yourself worthy. You married him. You deemed him worthy upon marriage. Respect him, honor him, be obedient, submissive to him in all things that glory God. It's not even including things that are of grave matter. We're not saying that. If he tells you not to go to mass, go to mass. I think we live in a world that I think we do need to spell it out to a degree, because I also think guys need to be told what to do. I'm a coach in the online space. I coach Christian and Catholic guys. What to me is common sense, not that I'm any smarter, but just because I've made a lot of mistakes, is not common sense to a lot of guys. So they really need to be told, like, just don't be a dick, bro. Like, there's a time and place to throw the hammer down, but this is where experience is king, where you can't really teach that either, right? But let's also have the other conversation. It's like, Ripperger was probably right or underestimating when he said that over 80% of even traditional Catholics are feminist marriages. And I think it's a failure of not just in the household patriarchy with men, but it's also in the clerical patriarchy with this bracketing of Ephesians 5. Yeah. And this not calling women out on their sin too, because they sin too.
Yeah. They're not these little angels that don't fart.
Yeah. They poop as well.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.